RFK Jr. suspended his presidential campaign and officially endorsed Trump, and so did Tulsi Gabbard. So what does this mean for this election cycle? I'm especially curious about what this means for women voters, because in case you missed it, moms love RFK, and the female voting bloc is often the weakest one for Trump over the last couple of elections. So let's do a quick summary. I'm going to give you the quick rundown of what happened here. So RFK didn't actually suspend his entire presidential campaign. What he did was he pulled his name off of his ballot in 10 key battleground states. So essentially any states that are going to be a fighting battle, a fighting ground for either Dems or Republicans. And his quote was, "My name will remain on the ballot in most states. If you live in a blue state, you can vote for me without harming or helping President Trump or Vice President Harris." He said, "In red states, the same will apply. But in about 10 battleground states where my presence will be a spoiler, I'm going to remove my name. And I've already started that process and urge voters not to vote for me." And so then on Friday, last Friday in Arizona, Trump brings out RFK Jr. at his rally, and it was a moment. It was a moment. The music was playing. I think it was actually a Foo Fighters song that was playing, and Foo Fighters announced that they did not release that song to be played. But Trump said some nice things, and he talks about how he knows firsthand the risks that leaders like RFK take to stand up against the establishment. He lost his father and uncle in service to the country, and honestly, the vibes were immaculate, y'all. The vibes were immaculate. It was wild. The crowd went wild. They shook hands. It felt like a very genuine new relationship. And what we can do is we can watch a little bit. I can't play for you the moment where he walked out onto stage at Trump's rally because the music would copyright strike. But let's take a look at his speech that RFK made to announce this.
I've already started that process and urge voters not to vote for me. It's with a sense of victory and not defeat that I'm suspending my campaign activities. Not only did we do the impossible by collecting 1 million signatures, we changed the national political conversation forever. Chronic disease, free speech, government corruption, breaking our addiction to war have moved to the center of politics. I can say to all who have worked so hard the last year and a half, thank you for a job well done. 3 great causes drove me to enter this race in the first place, primarily.
Okay. So, yeah, he basically talks about what his fight was for. It was against medical tyranny. That was the biggest part of his platform. Wants to improve chronic health in this country. And, of course, what followed this was a smear campaign. And even the Kennedys came forward to disavow their own family member. Like, come on, where's your loyalty? Okay, you're not going to agree with every single family member, but they had to come out and make all these public statements and release this official letter saying, we do not support our cousin or our brother or whatever. Like, at least just be quiet. Don't throw him under the bus. Just be like, he's the black sheep of the family. But, making these official letters and statements and videos about how horrible your brother is, not demure, not very mindful. We don't like that. His sister tweets something in support of Harris and Walz. Let's look at the official letter that she showed here. And it says, "I am sharing a personal statement that my family and I have made in response to my brother's announcement." And here's the statement. This is so stupid. "We want an America filled with hope and bound together by a shared vision of a brighter future, a future defined by individual freedom, economic promise, and national pride. We believe in Harris and Walz. Our brother Bobby's decision to endorse Trump today is a betrayal of the values that our father and our family hold most dear. It is a sad ending to a sad story." Signed, Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, Courtney, Carrie, Chris, and Rory Kennedy. And there was another video where all the Kennedys were talking into the camera about how much they support Biden. This is before Biden dropped out of the race. And Mike Cernovich tweeted, he was like, the hills have eyes. I don't think I'm going to listen to any of these guys. They all look inbred. They might be inbred. Who knows? So what does this mean for female voters? And then Tulsi Gabbard endorsed Trump too. But before we get into Tulsi Gabbard, let's talk about some of RFK's voter base. According to Pew Research, which is a fairly left-leaning organization, they claimed to have analyzed the voters for RFK. And apparently most of the RFK supporters don't feel very strongly about either candidate. in terms of Harris versus Trump. So it's a big deal that RFK didn't only drop out of the race, because he could have just been like, all right, I'm not going to win, I'm going to drop out. He made the effort to officially endorse Trump, to get on stage with Trump, to make an official appearance with Trump, give a speech, shake hands, all of the optics, all of the shenanigans. They're going to be working together if Trump gets into office. He even said that RFK could head up some like special committee to investigate past assassinations of presidents. But from the information that Pew Research posted, Kennedy polled 12% of Hispanics, 13% of young voters, and 18% of independent women, all of which apparently they say are favorable votes for Harris, but they are. You know what? They are favorable votes for Harris. And apparently, meanwhile, he polled 15% for independent men, 16% of voters in trade and tech industries, and those could be favorable to Trump, which is also true. And as far as we know from the last two elections, Trump does not perform very well with women at the polls. Women don't really like Trump as much as they like essentially anyone on the Democratic side. But the moms love RFK. And I think this arc of his presidential campaign over the last year has been really interesting to see. Wasn't there like a Moms for RFK crop top that they were selling? Or did I just dream that one day? I mean, it would be a good, that's good merch to sell, because a lot of hot moms like RFK. Because if you think about the girlies who like RFK, they like his stance on medical freedom, his promise to fight big pharma. A lot of these moms are coming around to realize that these huge pharmaceutical companies are predatory and they do not have your children's best interests in mind. And you see the you-know-what schedule, you know what I'm talking about, the V word, that is pushed by the CDC. Many children, because of this humongous schedule for kids to take like 88 of these things before they turn 2, many of these children have been gravely injured or even worse. And it all is because of these big pharma shenanigans where they just want to make as much money as possible. So there's been a huge movement of RFK moms who support RFK, moms who are against medical tyranny, moms who want to heal the health of American people, especially American children, because chronic disease has skyrocketed. So who are these women going to vote for? That's the big question. And I think Trump's campaign has been strategically trying to win over a lot of these women that RFK leaves behind in battleground states. And it reminds me of this interview with J.D. Vance about a federal abortion ban. I don't know exactly when this interview was first released. I'm pretty sure it came out after RFK announced his support for Trump. And this is important because this is now a viral thing on Twitter, because a lot of conservatives are furious. They're absolutely furious about this interview where J.D. Vance says that he and Trump are not going to implement any sort of federal abortion ban. So before I play it again, listen to this with the perspective that you have a lot of these women who would have voted for RFK, and now they're left to decide in these battleground states who they want to vote for. And I actually think, as pro-life and anti-abortion as I am, I actually think that this strategy is pretty smart. So let's watch.
Democrats made the case this week and beyond this week that Donald Trump, if elected, will impose a federal ban on abortion if he wins. Now, Donald Trump says he won't, but can you commit, Senator, sitting right here with me today, that if you and Donald Trump are elected, that you will not impose a federal ban on abortion?
I can absolutely commit that, Kristen, and Donald Trump has been as clear about that as possible. I think it's important to step back and say, what has Donald Trump actually said on the abortion question, and how is it different from what Kamala Harris and the Democrats have said? Donald Trump wants to end this culture war over this particular topic. If California wants to have a different abortion policy from Ohio, then Ohio has to respect California and California has to respect Ohio. Donald Trump's view is that we want the individual states and their individual cultures and their unique political sensibilities to make these decisions, because we don't want to have a nonstop federal conflict over this issue. The federal government ought to be focused on getting food prices down and getting housing prices down, issues, of course, where Kamala Harris has been a total disaster. So I think Donald Trump is right. We want the federal government to focus on these big economic and immigration questions. Let the states figure out their own abortion policy.
Let me just...
Okay, we can pause there. That's enough. And as somebody who is staunchly anti-abortion, you guys, if you have ever followed my channel, you know that I consider myself an abortion abolitionist. However, I agree with Vance. I think at the federal level, there are more pressing issues. I'm not saying we shouldn't care about abortion, but there are more pressing issues that affect everyday Americans all over the country. The American family unit, the economy has to be fixed. For me, that is the biggest issue with this election, is somebody has got to step in and help fix these inflation rates, the housing market, the job market. Something's got to change. Gas prices, grocery prices, like, hello, can we please work on this first and foremost? So when this was released, a lot of people were arguing about how this is a terrible, terrible move on Trump's campaign's part. And I have to say, I disagree with that. I think this is actually a smart move. I think that this, as much as we disagree with a lot of these more liberal women who have supported RFK or are a little bit undecided, or who are usually Democrat, but they don't really like, Kamala Harris, this is going to be important to them. That is going to bring them more to our side. That is going to make them much more likely to vote for Trump over Kamala, because at the very least, they know that there's not going to be some sort of federal abortion ban. I would love a federal abortion ban. I would. But you know what is most important right now is winning this election. That is what is most important. And we need to get as many votes as possible in order to make that happen. So as much as I would love a federal abortion ban, because like I said, you guys know me, if you know my channel, I'm staunchly against abortion. It is more important to me to win this election and to fix this country than it is to stand on like principle and be like, well, if you're not going to do a federal abortion ban, I am not voting for you. That is a dumb thing to say. And so now let's show this tweet from Lila Rose, who is founder and president of Live Action, which is a nonprofit known for fighting abortion and supporting pregnant mothers, and tearing down the propaganda about abortion that has been released all over our culture and our country for the last several decades. And she quote tweeted this interview by JD Vance, and she said, if you don't stand for pro-life principles, you don't get pro-life votes. So look, when I read that to me reads as like a threat that pro-life people aren't going to vote for Trump and Vance because he said this. No, I'm not with it. I'm not in agreement with that. You cannot steal votes away because they're not going to impose a federal abortion ban. They need all the votes they get. If you think that this is bad for abortion, what do you think it's going to be like if Kamala Harris gets into office? So at the end of the day, we need to get these guys elected, right? That's what we want. At the end of the day, you also cannot deny that Trump is the most pro-life president we've had in a long, long time. He put in those Supreme Court justices. They overturned Roe versus Wade, which was like the biggest piece of abortion legislature ever. And it's definitely, you can argue that he is the most pro-life president we've had in a long time. And so now that Tulsi Gabbard has also endorsed Trump, you have a lot more women who are at least turning their eyes towards Trump and Vance and who are more willing to hear them out. So let's look at Tulsi's speech really quick, because she went on stage with Trump, said a few things. I won't play too much of it because it kind of goes on for a little while, but this is an important moment here. Let's take a look.
Whether you're a soldier, you're an airman, a Marine, sailor, or a coastie, he keeps us in his heart in the decisions that he makes. We saw this through his first term in the presidency, when he not only didn't start any new wars, he took action to de-escalate and prevent wars. He exercised the courage that we expect from our commander-in-chief in exhausting all measures of diplomacy, having the courage to meet with adversaries, dictators, allies, and partners.
Yeah, that's the only snippet that I think we really need to hear. Is she's right, is that he is our most peaceful president in terms of war, foreign wars, foreign interference in a long time. And so now that you have Tulsi Gabbard also officially endorsing Trump, this is a big deal. This is a big move. And Tulsi, I think one of the first moments she really went viral was at the 2020 presidential primary debate, when she totally crushed Kamala Harris and grilled her about putting men in jail who were innocent, didn't belong there, and then laughing about it because she put the people in jail for like decades for marijuana use, and then she laughed about it when people asked her if she'd ever smoked weed before. So what does this mean? This means that the Democrats are losing their grip on lifelong liberals, and the spectrum has shifted. And many people who were once considered liberals and who checked off the boxes for all of the classical liberal values for the last few decades, they're now abandoning the Democratic Party because the Democrats are proving more and more every day that they're not actually classical liberals. They are these radical leftists that believe in these crazy extreme things that normal liberals like RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Rogan, the list goes on and on. These people are just not on board with it. These are people who are they're not social. They're definitely not socially conservative. These people support gay marriage and they're fairly pro-choice. But at the same time, they are uniting with Trump and with the Republicans because the Democrats have completely lost their grip on what the Democrats have traditionally believed for a long time. They're now in this radical way left field. And we all know, and they especially know in Congress, and people like Tulsi Gabbard especially know, that Kamala Harris is like the leftist of the left. She's incredibly radical. Her father was a Marxist. The Marxist incantation that she repeats all the time, looking towards what we can be, unburdened by what has been. That is a Marxist phrase. That's a Marxist phrase that many Marxist dictators have used to usher in this new world and get rid of anything that was old or traditional. And so you see a lot of these liberals officially endorsing Trump, and a lot of these women are going to be looking at this. They're opening their eyes and they're like, oh, I kind of like Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is likable. She is one of the only likable female presidential candidates that we've ever seen. She doesn't try to be anything that she's not. She is what she is. She served in the military. Seems pretty honest, forthright. She's authentic. She's likable. And so a lot of women who maybe they wouldn't have voted for Tulsi Gabbard, but they like her, and they have voted Democrat in the past. So they're now like, oh, Tulsi's endorsing Trump. What's going on here? And so then you see, when you look at it through that lens and you see this interview with JD Vance where he's like, hey, we're not going to give you this federal abortion ban. That actually opens the door for a lot of these female voters to think twice and be like, oh, maybe I will consider Trump. So just a thought. And I know it's really hard for a lot of us pro-life Christians. It's hard for us to hear that because we want a federal abortion ban. But like I said, we have to be smart. What is the most important thing right now, today, this year, and the next couple of months? It is getting Trump elected. That is the most important thing. And it is an opportune time because you see that the Democrats are just moving further and further left. They're more and more radical. All these liberals are coming over to Trump's side. So let's get them on board. Let's get them voting for Trump. And then let's have Trump turn the country around, because I honestly think that it will be a ripple effect. He fixes the economy. People are more stable. Families are more stable. And then from there, it's a ripple effect where the culture will change a little bit. Hopefully values will start to change and go back. The pendulum will start to swing over to the other side a little bit. But let's get the man in office and let's get gas prices down, for goodness sake. Get gas prices down. Gas was like $2 a gallon when he was in office. Like, yeah, let's bring that back, please. All right, let's bring that back. Thanks, everybody. Bye.